Hello and welcome to the Breakthrough Work Podcast. I'm your host, Ravi Kumar, partner and national market leader at Connor Group. Today, we have two remarkable guests whose careers and impact extend far beyond the football field. Larry Fitzgerald Jr. is one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history, having played his entire 17-year career with the Arizona Cardinals. His accolades include 11 Pro Bowl selections, second all-time in NFL receptions, the 2016 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, the 2015 Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award, and he's named to the NFL All 100 team in 2019. He's a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer in the class of 2026. And off the field, Larry's a philanthropist, entrepreneur, and investor, having invested in more than 160 companies across industries such as hospitality, technology, sports, real estate, and fintech. He also serves on the boards of Dick's Sporting Goods, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Qualtrics, and Infinite Athlete. Kelvin Beachum is a 14-year NFL veteran, current offensive lineman for the Arizona Cardinals. He's a respected leader, investor, philanthropist, and one of the most thoughtful voices in the intersection of sports, business, and technology. And as of last week, we can also say that he's a 2025 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award nominee. Kelvin grew up on a small town and today runs a ranch in Texas, something I personally appreciate. Kelvin has also built a dynamic business career. He's a former Sequoia Scout, investor in enterprise software, critical technology, frontier tech, and an IPL cricket team. Advocate for STEM education, clean water access, and global community empowerment. Kelvin is also a newly published children's book author with Kelvin's Big Adventure Map. Larry and Kelvin, it's truly an honor. Welcome to Breakthrough Work.
It's an honor to be on with you. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Same here, Ravi. Thank you so much.
Of course, guys. So we'll jump right into it. Let's talk about peak performance and longevity. You both played an elite level for more than a decade. What did peak performance look like to each of you behind the scenes? The habits, the discipline, the recovery routines that the public never sees?
Yeah, I think it's the faceless, anonymous, quiet part, that gives you the ability to play at the highest level, on the court, on the diamond, on the pitch, on the field. You just have to have a relentless ability to be consistent, feeling good, hurt, sore, in season, out of season. Like you just have to be really dedicated to doing the things that actually separate you from others, and being able to have that resilience, to be able to fight back through things, Kelvin's had, ACL injury and other injuries that have, sidelined him for a long period of time. Like, that when that doubt creeps into your mind, can I fight my way back through this? And like, you're always fighting that voice in your mind. And, I never sustained any really big injuries, but there was always a little long in the tooth. He's getting older, and all, that voice that's always in your mind that you have to fight, every single day. And then Father Time, you have to stay diligent fighting him. Like that dude is on your back all the time. You gotta just keep boxing him, getting him. No, today ain't the day. You're not gonna get me today. You gotta fight him.
Absolutely.
I would say sticking to a process. It's finding out what that process happens to be and sticking to that process. I say this all the time, especially as an offensive lineman, you got to fall in love with the mundane. And, some parts of this business and some part of this profession, it's the same thing. Your Monday is Monday, your Tuesday is Tuesday, your Wednesday is Wednesday, your Thursday is Thursday, your Friday is Friday, your Saturday is Saturday. And 1:00 on Sundays is when you have to show up. So it's a very mundane and regimented course that you take on, especially once the season starts. So for, 5 to 6 months out of the year, it's the same thing. You eat the same thing. They serve the same thing every day, every Wednesday. You got bison, eggs, fried eggs, spinach, French toast and pancakes. It's the same thing every Wednesday, same thing every Thursday. So you have to be able to fall in love with the exact same thing happening for an extended amount of time. And, as you start to experience Father Time, can you put a little bit more into that recovery bucket to get you back to the baseline? Not saying you're going to feel good. You're never going to feel good. The best day that you feel, going into a season is the day before training camp. Because after that, there will be no more feeling good for the rest of the season. And it's, can you do everything that's required to get you back to that baseline, to get you ready for Sunday?
Yeah, you have me at bison. I spent a lot of time in Montana And oh man, bison chili, and it's a great lean meat. So sometimes the mundane can be delicious too. So I'll give you that.
Without question, without question.
Did either of you have a breakthrough moment when you realized that you could just sustain greatness for that extended period of time?
No, I mean, because you're going through the journey for the first time yourself, right? Like you don't. People can tell you about this, they can tell you about that, but like you're going through it and experiencing it yourself. And obviously, you have the goal of playing a long career, playing at the highest level, and playing in multiple Super Bowls and winning championships, and being decorated and all of these things, right? But it's about really just falling in love with the process, as Kelvin talked about. I mean, it's a lonely journey, and I say that because Kelvin has 3 children, lovely wife. Like he's got to leave them every day in the off season to go train for him. For him, this is not for the family. This is for him to be in shape to do his job. And so, like, if you think about it, it's a selfish pursuit. Like nobody else can do this for you. It's you on this journey by yourself in a team setting. And so, like, you really gotta just be committed to that cause and understand greatness comes with sacrifice.
A lot of sacrifice. And, I say this all the time, nobody's coming to save you. Like, nobody's coming to save you. So, you talk about greatness. It sounds great. Greatness sounds great. But there are a lot of situations and a lot of circumstances that come along on this journey where nobody's coming to save you. Like you're the only person that can take care of said situation. You're the only person that can be able to protect. In my case, it's 4th and 10. Game is on the line. It's 1-on-1. The slide is going away. Like nobody's coming to save you. It's 60,000 people that are screaming. Larry was a receiver for a number of years. He used to chip every once in a while, but there comes a point where no chips are coming. Like there's nobody coming to save you. And I think those experiences and those moments are those ones that you really think about when you think about, well, what does greatness look like? And it looks different for everybody. But I would say, as it pertains to me, like you have to realize nobody's coming to save you. And yes, there is a selfish pursuit that takes place, but the selfish pursuit is realizing that there is nobody coming to do what needs to be done to take care of what needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, well, everyone wants the glory, but they don't want the hard work, early mornings, late nights to put all the work in for that glory, right? I get it. Those mornings, every morning when I look at my 4 kids and I come to work knowing that those are the mouths I got to feed. So it's that higher purpose for sure. Well, this is a business podcast after all, so I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about your work off the field, internships, curiosity, and life after football. Kelvin, you're still in the thick of it, but I know you're thinking about life after football. Larry, early on in your career, you did an internship at JP Morgan. Similarly, Kelvin, you were a Sequoia scout. You worked with Kleiner Perkins and Thrive. What did these roles teach you about life after football?
Well, I mean, you have to start preparing long before the game is over because you never know when the game is going to be done with you. It's not like your podcast. I mean, you could do this podcast until you're 80 years old. Like literally, like there's no limiting factors in you being able to do that. Playing a long career has a lot to. A lot of it doesn't have anything to do with you personally and what you desire. So you kind of have to build yourself an off ramp and. I kind of got pushed into mine. It wasn't necessarily my idea. It was somebody else kind of challenging me. And, I took them up on the challenge because, anybody challenges you in life, you always got to answer the bell, right? In any capacity. Like, can you beat me
Still
in that?
A gladiator. Yeah.
Can you beat me in this? Like, no, I'm competing, And so, like, I took them up on it and it really just opened my eyes to what was truly possible. Once I got done playing, some of the best relationships, I've developed, some of the most intelligent, insightful people I've ever been around are because of those things. And, I was very fortunate that, somebody took a chance on me and challenged me to do something that was completely outside of my comfort zone.
Awesome. Kelvin?
I think for me, it's one of those things where, you just want to be ready and you're never ready. And for me, that moment happened in 2015. Larry mentioned it earlier. ACL, MCL, meniscus.
Oof.
Contract year. Life hit you real hard. And you have to start thinking about what could be possible if this was it. And, for me, that was an eye-opening experience about the business of the game, but also how to leverage the business of the game. So for some, you have people that pull you into the business world, for Larry in that regard. For me, you had, an experience that really, I think, rocked me to my core to really make me think about what was possible. Um, if it were to end at that point. And for me, it started this journey of wanting to discover. It started at, the Super Bowl, which is happening, in San Francisco this year, almost a decade ago in 2016 Super Bowl that happened there in San Francisco. Got to hear from legends, those who had played the game, those who were around the game, that talked about how important it was to consider the tech ecosystem as a possibility. And then, went over to Kleiner, started the internship there. And, it's just been this journey of discovering and learning from some of the best more than anything. And I think, you apply some of the things that you learn in football and you learn from the greats. Receivers go and spend time studying, Larry's film. I spent time studying, Walter Jones' film, Flozell Adams' film, Chad Clifton's film. Start seeing some of these folks that you can emulate and take some of their attributes and apply them to yourself. You have to do the same thing in the business world. So who are some of the best within venture? Who are some of the best in buyout? Who are some of the best in growth? Who are some of the best in cyber? Who is the best in critical tech? Who's the best investor looking at drones? And then you start finding out and picking out who's the best in credit, who's the best in structured credit, and you start to figure out why they are what they are. And you start to see the similarities between our world and their world. And they're pushing the boundaries in their particular ecosystem. And it's a different type of adrenaline. There's nothing that we can ever do that can replicate what we do on Sundays, but there's a different type of adrenaline where we get to go compete in this sphere, where we're starting as rookies all over again and going to pursue something that we find to be very attractive and very stimulating, not only physically, but also mentally as well.
Yeah, you touched on something that I've always held dear throughout my career, which is, folks try and find role models in their lives. And I've always said I want to role model attributes of individuals as opposed to, individuals as a whole. Because like you said, someone's great instructor. For me, it was, hey, this person's a great presenter. This person's one of the most technical, brilliant minds I've ever seen. This person's great at sales, and take little snippets of each aspect and then try and emulate those qualities to really try and make myself as complete as possible. But that was very articulate and well said about, how you really picked and chose all of the, the correct attributes of those individuals. And frankly, is the average NFL career still about between 3 and 4 years, or is it? Yeah. So, more power to you guys. I always tell my kids, step out of their comfort zone, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And you guys did that. So, maybe touching on that, stepping into unfamiliar territory in these worlds at JP Morgan and venture, what did that teach you guys about humility and reinventing yourself and thinking about life post your professional careers?
Kelvin talks about it all the time is, being a rookie all over again. This is like rookie training camp. You're not knowing where you're going. You're not knowing the entire playbook. You're not knowing where the cafeteria is. Like you're literally drinking water through a fire hose, and that's what it feels like initially, right? But if it's not meaningful to you and it doesn't challenge you and it doesn't make you uncomfortable, is it really something that you want to do in life, right? And I've always felt like everything that kind of gives you that feeling, it's important to you. It's worth sacrificing for. It's digging deep for. That it's worth going the extra mile. And I think that's something that I definitely had when I walked in there for the first time and I saw all these kids from Princeton and Harvard and Yale and Dartmouth and Cornell, and I had left early as a sophomore from college. Like I was nowhere near qualified to be in this room. Like literally, I had no business being in this room. And then in a week and a half, I realized, no, actually, I can't be in this room because there's other things that I can do that ball has taught me that translate very seamlessly into that world, right? And so, hadn't I put myself in that position, I wouldn't have known. And so, yeah, I learned a lot about myself going through that, and I'm damn happy that I wasn't scared. I didn't turn down the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Kelvin?
I'm just glad he didn't turn it down like he'd be turning down those balls coming over the middle. That black linebacker sitting right there. But no, it's one of those things where you don't know until you know, honestly. And you don't know how far you can push yourself until you put yourself in that position. You think about the weight room, and you're always wanting to push the boundaries of what your body can do. I think intellectually, I think as athletes, we don't do that enough, and I think that's what's been the exciting part about this is pushing the boundaries of what's considered possible. Coming from our profession, so being around people that've spent more time in this arena, but providing a different perspective and looking at it from our perspective. So, I think it's one, pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits, and then I think being willing to take those risks. I think for us, we've been willing to not only think about the risks that are associated with what's going on here in America, but how do we think about things that have international ramifications, going to different countries. Larry spent, decades just traveling the world, putting himself in different situations. And I think, I've learned that from him of just going different places and wanting to be uncomfortable, going to Hong Kong and being uncomfortable, going to Mumbai and being uncomfortable, going to Australia and being uncomfortable, going to parts of Africa, taking my kids for spring break to South America, this coming up spring break, like now teaching them how to do it. So it's one of those things. I think it's part of our DNA of wanting to just push the boundaries. And I think as athletes, that's something that you do naturally and innately, just due to the profession. But now how do you take that a step further within this world and within the business community of how do you think about international business, in Southeast Asia? And how do you participate in that particular region? How do you think about, how the world looks in the Middle East or in Europe? And how do you find a way to participate? How do you speak their language? How do you deal and operate within the cultural norms that are in each of those locations? And take the time to learn. I know we use this word being a rookie. Being a rookie, you got to learn all over again. There are things that rookies have to do. And, I think that we've become comfortable, even though it is uncomfortable, doing the things that we have to do to be able to participate at this level and at this scale.
Yeah, I hope those guys weren't making you get their Starbucks orders, man. That'd
if
be
they
tough,
did, it wouldn't be a problem.
Humility, I love it.
Got no problem paying their dues. That's part of the things that you have to. And before you lead, you have to learn how to follow. And I think that's something that actually the NFL, teaches you, and gives it to you in spades. I remember coming in and seeing Emmitt Smith, carrying his pads in, whatever he needed me to do. But what he transferred to me was a knowledge that I would never have been able to get from anywhere else. And so if the cost that I'm paying is carrying your equipment, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
like that's invaluable. And so if you're an intern and you're at some Goldman Sachs, or JP Morgan, or Morgan Stanley, and I have to go pick up bagels in the morning, like, are you kidding me? So I get to sit here in these meetings and learn about how you guys are deciding to shape the future of this company, and all you're asking me to do, go pick up the bagels. Okay, all right, I'll trade that every day.
Yeah, I remember a private equity conference I went to, and Magic Johnson was the keynote speaker. And you have all these rooms of like Harvard MBAs, Wharton, Princeton, and they're like, "So Magic, what are your predictions for the economy and everything?" And Magic's like, "Man, I didn't even graduate from college, and I should be asking you guys these questions." He's, done pretty well for himself on the investment side and everything. But it brings me to my next question, which, we would host these events where we bring out professional athletes and our clients. And, Connor Group, we've been around for about 20 years. We've taken 265 companies public. We've taken about 50% of the Bay Area companies public in the last decade. So, we would host these events at Stanford where Richard Sherman would be hosting a cornerback camp. So Aqib Talib, Xavier Rhodes, Darius Slay are out there. We're watching them play. And then they come into a boardroom with us and we're putting them in front of our clients. And so, my question is, what's the biggest misconception for folks like that? I mean, Richard's been a prolific investor, kind of like each of you, but what's the biggest misconception that athletes have about trying to go from the locker room to the boardroom?
Well, I think the biggest is that they feel like they don't have a place there. They don't deserve to be there. And obviously being a great athlete will open up doors, but doesn't keep those doors open until you start taking the next steps and progressions. And, when somebody asks you to read a book, this is something I wrote this book. Can you read it? And they send it to you. You actually read it. And then the next follow-up meeting, you talk to them about what it is that you learn in this book. And I think I understand when you were telling me last time, this chapter really illustrates the things that you were talking about. And then they give you the next assignment, and then they send you a deal. Like, I want you to look at this and tell me what you think about this. And so it's no different than learning a playbook, honestly. But like, guys don't look at it, they don't shape it, they don't frame it in that same light. And I think that they get a little shy, a little scared, a little timid sometimes about doing that, because you don't want anybody ever to think that you're inferior intellectually. Like, there's nothing worse, right? But when your teacher is teaching you in high school, you're in calculus class, they know you don't know the answers. Like, the teacher knows you don't know the answers. Their job is to be there to teach you, to help you get to the point where you can move on to the next class, right? And that's kind of how I look at it when somebody's mentoring me. I wouldn't be coming to them if I had the answers already. So I'm coming to you humbly, and letting you know I want the knowledge that you have. Please impart some of it to me. And I think just kind of like humbling yourself enough to be able to realize that they're not judging you based on where you are today. Their goal is to be able to help you get to where you want to go.
And I think on the flip side, some of the misconceptions really come from, they don't think athletes are willing to do the work that's necessary to be there. And there have been some stories that have allowed that narrative to take place. But I would say more times than not, if you give somebody an opportunity, especially give an athlete the opportunity to earn the right to be in that room, they will do everything in their power to earn the right to be in that room. So I think, just the misconception is they're not willing to do the work. They came, they got capital already. They don't need the money, they quote unquote think that they figured it out due to kind of social norms and what people think about it on social media.
Yeah.
But I would say, just give athletes an opportunity, and you'd be surprised what they do with that opportunity. I think many athletes realize how important first impressions are more than any other person on the planet. They realize how important first impressions are, and they know they may only get one shot, because as an athlete, you may only get one shot. It can be done with one play. So to know that you have that opportunity at your disposal, many athletes know that they have to do a phenomenal job in that particular situation. Both Larry and I know a guy who played in the National Football League for a long time, and he was on the floor at Goldman, up all night, working 20-hour, 22-hour, 007s, and we knew all he needed was an opportunity to have the right to be in that particular position. And, he's taken it and he's ran with it.
That's amazing. And, you touched on something that I don't, take lightly, which is, I was a collegiate athlete. I played water polo and I swam all 4 years in high school and college, but not competing at the level you guys did. But I see that look, Larry.
No, one of Calvin and I founders, Adam, is a water polo player, and I can swim good enough. If you push me in the pool, I can get to the side. But you tell me to stay out there, just tread water for 10 minutes, it's gonna be ugly, man. You gonna
with an arrowhead jug filled with water above your head.
You gonna have to come get me. You gonna have to come get me.
But what I was getting at is the resiliency, the grit, which I think, if I'm gonna get on a soapbox for a little bit, the younger generation still needs to appreciate that, like, the world isn't handed to them. You got to put in the work. You got to fight through some hard stuff, and it's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be some dark days that you got to pull yourself together and get through some stuff. And so I will hire athletes, I will hire veterans, I will hire folks that have been through stuff, because this is the most important thing. They know that they may not get a second chance. So I appreciate you saying that, Kelvin, because it's incredibly important.
No doubt. It's so interesting. We were, Larry and I, in a group chat, and we sent this video this morning, and a gentleman was talking about how we're in a generation of runners. Like how instead of people sitting, I had a coach by the name of Frank Gans. He called it the world of suck. Instead of just sitting in the world of suck and finding a way to fight through that, we run. Generation of runners. And he highlighted, currently, and I hate to get on a soapbox and talking about this, but like he highlighted, what's going on with NIL, things are not going well at a school, you leave and you go to another school. You don't like what they're doing at that school, you leave, you go to another school. My first 2 years at SMU, I was 2-22. 2-22.
Yeah.
That's
you
2
stuck it out.
11 seasons back to back.
Yeah.
The following year, we went to a bowl game. The next 3 years, we went to bowl games, and I finished out my career there at SMU. But it was my parents that told me to find a way to stick it out and stay there. And I was saying, I love that. This generation, we have to find a way to make sure we're not a generation of runners, and we're finding a way to stick it out. And that's in every profession. No matter, it's not just an athlete thing, but it's in every profession. And, Larry just, he's laughing because his son is, just now, going through recruitment and going through this whole process and getting wined and dined, everywhere all over the place. You mentioned Duke earlier, Duke wined and dined him, Stanford wined and dined him, Pitt wined and dined him, Clemson wined and dined him, everywhere he went, but he had to make a decision and like, where am I going to find a way to stick it out? And I know, Larry's about finding a way to stick it out. He was at an organization for 17 years. Like, it means something. And I know that may sound old school in some respect, but like it means something to stick it out and find a way to battle through all the tests and trials that may be going on in a particular situation.
No. I couldn't agree with you more. Kelvin calls it. I call it the opt-out generation. You know? Hey, you want to try? Nah, that's all right. Or my kids, try this broccoli. Nah, Dad, that's okay. You never even tried it. Nah, I'm good. Just always opt out. Just opt out. I don't even know.
Unsubscribe. Yeah. No, that's awesome, guys. Shifting into more of the kind of governance as well as the investing side. Larry, I know we talked about the internship, understand banking, venture. How did your mindset evolve from learning business into shaping some of these companies that you're on the boards of? Dick's, Boys and Girls Club, Qualtrics, Infinite Athlete.
Well, I mean, these are, first of all, they're fabulous organizations, and they were running well, before I got there. But interesting enough, I joined Dick's board during the heart of COVID, and to be able to see the founder and former CEO and now chairman of the board, Ed Stack, the way he led during tough times, because you have two different type of leaders. You have good time leaders and you have wartime leaders. And not often do you have leaders that can kind of do both, right? And to see how he was able to just set a direction with so much uncertainty, not having any clue what the future held, how long this was going to be persistent. And it was hit retail harder than any other industry, maybe. And to see that and watch how he led was so valuable. And so like each board presents you with different learning points, right? And some, really push you in terms of operations. Some teach you tech, and so the thing I love about my board positions is none of them are the same. One is philanthropic, one is super tech focused, others big box retail. And so like the learnings that you get every single meeting, the conversations you're privy to are so valuable.
Yeah.
I would say it's a lifelong learner's mindset when you're thinking about, spending time, with the tech company. And I spend, a lot of my time, at the earliest stages where, it's kind of whether I wouldn't say incubation, but it's when a company has been able to have a couple customers, they've been able to, achieve, a couple million in ARR, and they get ready to pull the gas on it. And how do you take it from 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50? And that's just a different skill set. And, I think for me, it's been, how do I do life and how do I walk along this journey with the founder, especially considering, in some cases, in the venture ecosystem, you're spending somewhere between, inception to 12 years before there's, a liquidation event. So, it's how do you find ways to be able to serve those founders in those moments, knowing that those founders are going to be in very greedy situations. There's going to be a need for resilience to take place. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be a roller coaster. Some days are going to be very, very high, And some days are going to be very, very low. There's going to be, things that happen from a product standpoint that the product is going to do extremely well. There's going to be a time where it plateaus. There's going to be a time where the bottom falls out and it comes back up. Like it's working through all of those experiences that are going to take place, especially at the earlier stages, and being able to be that sounding board if needed, is being that sales person if needed, is being open to doing whatever is needed to be able to help that company stay alive. And many times, those early days, sometimes it's just about staying alive, and it's the war of attrition. And how do you find a way to make sure that the company that you've backed or the company that you've bet on has the ability to stay alive until they really start to hit that inflection point, and hopefully, get on Connor's, radar so they can get taken public. No plug,
absolutely,
no plug, or no pun intended, but making sure that they're able to get on the radar at some point to be able to take them to the finish line.
I appreciate that, Kelvin. Along those lines, a lot of your investments have focused on, technology and enterprise software, fintech. We know, I know part of the answer to this question about, qualifications and qualities that you look for in these investment opportunities in founders and companies of interest. I know it's not founders that are going to opt out when stuff gets hard. So, we'll make sure it's not that. But what other qualities are you guys looking for in investments that you make?
Well, founders that just have conviction. Love founders that have failed before in other ways. That they have tough skin. They're resilient. But they understand what's important based on the experiences that they had on the last venture. We look at companies who are addressing like a large addressable market, right? You want to be able to make sure that this is solving a problem that's large enough for you to spend time with and be able to use your connections and resources to be able to connect the dots for them. Just founders that just have that grit, that ability to work through. Kelvin and I were on a phone call earlier. It's a company that we ended up passing on, but the founder was a little bit older. He just didn't have that conviction, that vigor, that hustle, that drive that you really want in a founder. And the business was solid, right? But I just couldn't get behind, his energy. He's on the call, you talking to him, make you want to fall asleep.
I was going to say, you're making me sleepy.
Sometimes, especially where, early stage investing, you're betting on a person.
Yeah.
It's a founder bet.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we live in this world. I mean, we're doing a podcast and it's all virtual. Can you feel the energy virtually? Now we're going to meet in person. We'll see how, the in-person experience takes place. But, the early parts of the call sometimes are done over Zoom or Teams or Riverside, what have you.
Yeah.
Not that you need to sell somebody through the screen, but is there a level of energy that I want to be able to associate with, again, for the next 10 to 15 years in some respects? So sometimes it's just the vibes, and some people have been burnt by the vibes. I mean, it goes both ways. But I think at the core is this a founder that I feel has such conviction and obsession, and I would use the word obsession with the problem that they're going after, that they're willing to go through hell and high water to find a way to bring that to fruition. And I think as athletes, I hate to keep bringing it back to our world and bring it back to the business world, but it's something about being around so many different athletes, both football, basketball, other sports, where you see different qualities, where you see, hey, he has it, she has it. She's willing to die for it. He's willing to die for it. They're willing to fight tooth and nail. They're willing to knock on every single door. They're cool with taking 500 no's until they get the right one. And those things have to be teased out over time. And, that's for the investor in our case to find a way to tease that out in some respects. But it's at the end of the day, you're betting on a person.
Yeah.
And are you willing to take the time to get to know that person, willing to ask the right questions? And again, I think that we got, for me, I got a lot of the asking of questions, spending time with other people who have been doing this for a long time and hearing what questions they asked.
Yeah.
They're sending me books that I need to be reading. I always tell, especially young guys, when they're asking, what should I be reading as I'm thinking about, kind of going into the venture ecosystem? You got to read Venture Deals.
Yeah.
There's great questions in that book that will teach you. You have the Angel book by Jason Calkinis, that will help you understand the right questions as you're framing things that you need to be asking and just coming proficient trying to be an expert, trying to be a master in asking questions, because in doing so, you'll be able to find a lot out about the founder, the product, the addressable market, the TAM, the burn, what the unit economics look like, what the margins look like, and it just takes time teasing all that out over time.
Yeah, I remember our first call, Kelvin. I was just blown away by the knowledge and everything that you brought to the table. I'm like, man, I want to put you in some of my meetings right now. And I didn't know about your prolific venture background and everything at that time. But there's a venture fund I work really closely with, and exactly to your point about like a founder with conviction. They invested at a seed valuation of 36 million. They're like, realistically, we paid 10 million for the company, and we put another 25 million invested in the founder. So yes, it equates to about a $35 million valuation, but you've got a founder that's had 4 exits and even failed once that they were betting on, and they're betting on the horse. Mm-hmm. But vibes and vibes alone aren't good enough. That's the one thing. That's someone you hang out with. But yeah.
And the thing is both Larry and I have been on both sides of the coin. Mm-hmm. As an investor, there are going to be battle scars.
Yeah.
Deep battle scars. And that's okay. Those are things that you can learn from.
Yeah.
Those are experiences that you can learn from. Those are experiences that you can glean from. Those are things that you can look back at your diligence and your process in your diligence and be like, hey, I messed up there. I didn't ask the right question there. I shouldn't have been following here. I thought XX and X was in this deal. I thought, the founder was like, we've messed up as well. So there is not this perfect aura around us where, we're batting 1,000. We're not batting 1,000, but if you keep hitting singles and doubles and triples and tens and a 20 bagger and a 30 bagger, all right, you may do something right every now and then. Yeah. But there are battle scars that also come with that as well.
Yeah. Larry is a chess.com early investor. And, I know you used chess early in your life to manage your ADHD. One of my kids has ADHD. How did the game of chess help you, from a grounding and just, behavioral standpoint as a kid?
Well, it just slowed me down. Chess forces you to sit with your thoughts. I think, Calvin talked about running, like just being where your feet are, right? You have to sit down, you have to look somebody in the eye, you have to make a decision quickly with intentionality and taking all the information that you're kind of assessing on the board. And, I think it was a microcosm of life. It really kind of helped me understand the processes. Sometimes you're playing offense, sometimes you're being aggressive, sometimes you're on defense, and you're trying to figure out how to get out of a situation. And that's what happens to you in life. And so like when I was introduced to the game, I was like, man, this is slow. I'm just sitting here not doing anything. But then I started competing, and I really liked the feeling of beating somebody. Like there's nothing better than like outmaneuvering somebody mentally, right? It's one thing to like push them out of the way or water polos, throw it past the goalie. But like when you're able to outmaneuver somebody, with your mind, like that's a really cool feeling. So it was a feeling of euphoria, when I first started playing. And I still kind of have that same love. I play, a couple of times a day. KB doesn't want to play me. He ducks me. His son can actually beat him already. His son can already beat him. Yeah.
See, but that's the epitome of
that happened when he first started playing. They're actually getting coached right now. So Mondays, Coach Bell is actually working through all 3 of them right now. So, but yes, I gotta actually. I have to be committed to sit down and play my kids. So like I can't be the whole, hey, I'm gonna just fly by night, dad, just show up every once in a while. Like they made me sit down and actually work at it.
You got to train.
You got to.
On the subject of paying it forward, what advice are you guys giving to other players that, want to break into investing in tech or just entrepreneurship in general?
Go ahead, Beach.
Well, I would say, the first rule of getting better is showing up. And a lot of times all I do is I want to just take young guys and take them to conferences, gatherings, meetings that I'm having so they can just hear it and see it real time. People in our profession are just visual learners, just due to just what we do for a living. So just come to the meeting, come to the conference, come to the gathering, bring a notepad, just like you would do for a team meeting or for an offensive meeting or a unit meeting, and just take notes and just study. Be a student all over again. So for me, the best piece of advice that I always give young guys is just come along with me. there's a conference happening in June right after minicamp. Come check it out. During the off season, there are gatherings that the NFL has, that the NFLPA has, that different sports conferences, around the country. You got the Sloan Sports Conference that happens in Boston every year. There are just ways that you can just go and learn through osmosis that are some of the best ways to do it. But the first rule of getting better is showing up. So just find ways to show up.
Yeah. What about you?
I try to be as helpful as I possibly can, right? But it takes a different skill. It's like a crock pot mentality. Like, for you to get better at this, like, you gotta put it on in the morning, and don't just happen. 8 hours, 9 hours, you at work, you come in the house and you open that door and the aroma of the crock pot is permeating through your house, the roast. Like, it took time for that thing to simmer and to build and to grow to what it is that you eat as a family. And so, like, it's not just chasing that quick thrill. It's not like just, instant, throw popcorn in the microwave and it comes out in 3 minutes, it's ready to eat and it's delicious. That's not real life. That's not how this business works. That's not how relationships are developed. That's not how trust is developed. It's from years and years of being consistent, showing up and doing it the right way. And I think that's something that guys have to realize. I mean, yeah, it's one thing to throw a small check into a business, somebody brings a deal to you, but it takes a different skill to actually go somewhere, find a founder, do your diligence on it, get to a place where you can underwrite the deal, building out a memo, and then actually, making an investment. That's a very different, mentality and thought process, and it's slow. And a lot of times you're making mistakes, you're tripping, and you're falling on your face, and you're like, how did I miss this? How did I not see this? And if you're not willing to kind of have that pain and suffering, like, it's hard to do this for a living.
Yeah, you guys are making me hungry talking about crock pots and bison and everything. I'm like, it's dinner time over here, but yeah.
No, we were, I like to use it because we were a big crock pot family. We used the crock pot at least 3 times a week. So in the morning we'll get up. I would help my mom cut the carrots and the green beans. You throw it in there. And then, just put the top on and turn it on, and I'll be excited all day, man.
All right. We're doing a Southern cookout in North Carolina when you guys come out.
Hey, we need to come on down for it.
Heck yeah. Switching gears to a topic that I know you guys are both extremely passionate about, philanthropy and service. I mean, arguably I should have thrown this question out first. Kelvin, I tried to get you to beat Curtis Grandison in your head-to-head matchup. I did my part, but what drives both of your shared commitment to service?
I think both of us are just fascinated with the human condition, and I can't speak for Larry in that regard, but I think we're just curious about others' stories and how we can impact their lives in a very meaningful manner. The work that I've done in and around access to water on the global front, food insecurity here domestically, access to science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. It's like, how can I be able to impact the human condition and impact people on a deeper level? And then not only be able to hear their story, but also share their story and share their story in a meaningful way. Our platform is massive and taking their story all over the world in some regards. So for me, it's really just fascinated with the human condition and finding ways to be helpful and serve in a meaningful way.
Yeah, for me, it was a great example that I was able to learn from my mom and dad. My mom was in the philanthropic, not-for-profit world as a child, and so seeing her and seeing how she was able to affect people in such a positive way. And there's 2 different points of philanthropy, right? You have people who are actually the operators that are going out and raising the funds, and then you have donors, right? And you need both of them. It's a symbiotic relationship that one helps the other, right? My mom was on the operational side, and so I saw, up close and personal, like, just how impactful it was. And I knew when I had the means and ability to have a platform of my own that I wanted to make sure that I was doing my part. And, my mom being an educator, my grandmother being an educator, my mom's sisters being educators, I saw education as an opportunity, especially for young African Americans, to really be able to control their own destiny. And that was something important to me. And losing my mom from breast cancer, naturally, brought me closer to cancer in a most unfortunate way. And to be able to see us be able to serve, over 600 mobile mammograms, in this community here in Phoenix, and more to come. It really makes me proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And, we're only, scratching the surface, and, being able to have my brother Kelvin, show up for me, for me to be able to sit back and watch him, be nominated again for NFL Man of the Year, and God willing, this is the year that he's able to get up on that stage and claim this victory, because he's absolutely been one of the most deserving, candidates you could ever imagine. Man, this dude shows up so many places, and most of the time it's without fanfare. And so to be able to work with somebody like this, to be able to learn, to be able to bounce ideas off of each other, is something that I'm very honored and privileged to be able to have with him.
Yeah, Kelvin, you show up so many places for philanthropy. I'm beginning to think if you have a twin or something that's like, one's playing on the football field and one's just doing all this charitable work, because I see more about your philanthropic work than anything else, man. Really commendable.
The key to getting Kelvin there is just having some food. Nah, you have some food, and you have some food there, he gonna show up. He gonna show up.
While I've got your attention, Kelvin, your children's book, Kelvin's Big Adventure Map. I told my wife, I was like, well, Kelvin wrote a children's book. I should write a children's book. And she's like, don't write a children's book. So you got more inspiration than I do. I got shot down for that idea. So tell our audience about, what you hope kids take away from your book.
I think that the biggest thing that I want kids to take away from the Big Adventure Map is the willingness to be curious. I know we've talked about that word a number of times during this interaction already, but it's something fascinating about curiosity. And when you think about just being a kid, you put a kid outside, they will find something to do. You put a big kid outside, like the two people on this call, we will go find something to do across this planet. And I think sometimes, especially coming from, the small town that I came from, 6,500 people, a couple stoplights, to know that you can go from that particular location all the way across the world and be able to experience just some amazing experiences is something that I wanted to be able to share in a meaningful way. It's something to say about an athlete that happens to be an author as well. Again, it's defying stereotypes, something that, sometimes with athletes, we get put in this box of, hey, you're only supposed to do this. Hey, you're only supposed to give back this way. Hey, you're only supposed to do this with your time. You're only supposed to do this with your off seasons. Like, for me, it's debunking all of those things. And this book gave me the opportunity to debunk another myth that is associated with athletes. So for me, it's been fascinating. It's been cool. The response has been amazing. And what I love most about it is I don't get to make any money from this book. All the money goes back to Donors Choose, which is a partner that, I've served on their advisory board for a number of years, impacting education, STEM projects all over the country. So every time this book is sold, the proceeds go back to Donors Choose. So for me, it's checking the box, not checking the box, but it's being able to do a lot of things that I'm passionate about. Donors Choose, being able to share with young people, being able to have a young Black boy on the cover of the book, a Black family that's in the book, going all over the world, being able to explore Lusaka, Zambia, Hong Kong, Mumbai, India, going to see a cricket team. Like, it's one thing to say you got a small piece of a cricket team. It's another thing to talk about that small cricket team in the book. So it's fascinating to just tie all those pieces together.
Well, you're talking to a kid.
That crock pot mentality.
You got to bring it back
I
to
love
food.
barbecue chicken in a crock pot. I can do pot roast too, but it's a number of things that's just slow cooking, and it's been all those things kind of spiced in there together that was able to put this book on display. So it's been fun.
We talked about the farm life and the ranching. We actually raised turkeys this year, and we've raised chickens and ducks and everything. So we had one of our home raised turkeys for Thanksgiving.
So did you go kill the turkey? Did you take care of the turkey?
Well, we call it processing in my household. It's a very humane way that our kids raise them on the land organically. And, this bird nourishes our family, Kelvin. I mean, when you say it like that, it's not as barbaric.
I got cows back at home. And sometimes, Big Red had to be put down, and my mother, when she heard the gunshot,
that's life on a farm.
And we told her not to name the cows. I hope y'all didn't name the turkey. Did you name?
So they know the rule. You don't name the meat birds, but for whatever reason, they thought we're going to name these turkeys. But then, all turkeys look the same when they don't have feathers and everything. So we don't know which one we ate for Thanksgiving. So anyway.
Hey, it's so funny, but the difference between an organic farm-raised turkey and the size of the ones that you get, from the grocery store, it's like, man, it ain't not nearly as much meat on this bowl.
Hey, we couldn't eat the male because that boy was 24 pounds and it wouldn't have fit in the deep fryer. So yeah, but you'll have to get consumed at some point.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate what you guys are saying about being, students of the world. I mean, me being born in India, two of my kids being born in New Zealand. With all that, you would think I've seen a cricket game live, but I still haven't. So that's on my to-do list as well. But, my kids go to a Waldorf school, real, big proponents for being out in nature, critical thinking, asking the right questions. I had a debate with one of the facilitators. We were on the same side, but we still had a debate because we still live in a world that, thrives on standardized testing. It decides which schools you get into. And, but that doesn't really give you those critical thinkers that are going to solve problems like, how do I keep a retail business thriving during COVID? How do I, take this company from, struggling go-to-market traction to, nationwide and global, go-to-market launch? Like those are the problems that are solved when you start, taking down the walls and start thinking outside the box. So I really appreciate that. One, you guys are, paying it forward, not just with other athletes, but with your kids and showing them this world is much bigger than the US. This world is much bigger than ourselves. And frankly, keeping the world for our future generations, in proper working order is incredibly important. So I wanted to, take a moment to thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Terrible segue, but why not? Golf and life lessons, Larry. I'm gonna throw this to you as a fellow avid golfer. What did golf give you that football didn't mentally?
Well, it's just such a challenge. What you did today and how well you played today has no bearing on how you're going to play and perform tomorrow. And the other thing I think is really unique about golf is it's truly like it's the best 4-hour interview you'll ever have. Like, so if I go out and play with you, like, I'm going to know what your temperament is like. I'm going to see how you deal with prosperity. I'm going to see how you deal with failure. Are you going to pass the blame on the caddy for a bad line on the putt, even though that caddy did not putt that ball? It was you that putted it. So like I like to see how you interact with the cart girls. Are you respectful? Do you tip? Is that ball behind the tree? Do you move it? Or you play it the way you play it how it lies? There's so many things you can learn and pick up from somebody when you're playing golf. And then it's just like a beautiful way to get outside. The sun's shining on your face. You're walking on these beautiful golf courses, looking at this unbelievable terrain, and then you get to spend intentional time with 3 other individuals. And I've met some of my best friends on the golf courses, people I would have never in a million years had any interaction with, hadn't been out there. And so golf has definitely been, a catalyst in my life for a lot of amazing things.
I literally said that to someone today about I apply the same thought process in golf as I do in business. If it's someone that, one, I enjoy spending time with, they're about as driven as I am and similarly motivated. And if they don't lose their mind when they miss a shot and are throwing clubs and yelling and swearing and everything else, I would lie if I say I haven't uttered a 4-letter word on a golf course, but I don't throw clubs. I don't, lose my temper. It's a privilege to be out there, and it's a privilege to be out there with, the folks I get to spend time with. But it's a Zen moment for me, regardless of how I play. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I guess taking that question one step further, and then I will get back to you, Kelvin, because we know you're working on your golf game. So this on a future podcast, I'm going to ask you questions about golf. What parallels do you I see your reaction, Larry. He won't even take you on the golf course, Kelvin. Come on, man. All right.
No, man,
what parallels?
You got to get the ball. You got to get the ball airborne before you get out there and play. We got to get.
It's airborne. Man. It's airborne. Let's not get it twisted. This thing is, I got to break 90, so I got work to do, and I'm cool with that. I'm getting there. I'm close.
Larry, you were nominated as a first ballot Hall of Famer this year. What does that mean for you? The hours you put in, your career, the legacy that you left behind.
Well, you don't start off with the dream of being a Hall of Famer. You just want to make it, right? You just want to be able to play a few years. Maybe if you get lucky, get to a Pro Bowl or something like that. Like that's kind of what you aspire to. And I look at the people that are already in the Hall of Fame, the relationships that I have with Hall of Famers, and I look at them, and I look at the sacrifices, and I look at the road they paved for me. The Chris Carters of the world, the Randy Mosses, the guys that I have relationships with that literally I'm able to stand on their shoulders and be able to potentially one day be able to share like the ultimate honor, the ultimate privilege to be immortalized as one of the greatest to do your profession. Like I literally, like it makes the hair on my arm stand up, to be, even mentioned with men like that. And it's unbelievable. And I try not to get too wrapped up in it because I have zero control of the process at this point. I did everything in my power for 17 years to put myself in position, and now it's have no control over it. All you can do is just hope and dream and speculate. And so like I try not to drive myself crazy thinking about it too often.
You put together a pretty impressive resume. So I think you've done the work that the best work that you could do, and like you said, it's in other people's hands.
Yeah.
Kelvin, a similar question. I mean, what would the Walter Payton Award mean to you if you received it this year?
Well, one, I get to walk in the steps of my my mentor and brother. He paved the way.
Oh man, just a subtle flex. Just a
subtle flex. Just a subtle flex. But it would. I tell people this all the time. It wouldn't change the work. I actually fundamentally enjoy the work. I enjoy serving. I enjoy meeting people where they are. And I was blessed with amazing parents, amazing grandparents who taught me how to serve at a very young age. My grandfather's 98. He's still serving people. Dad had a 8th grade education, still serving people. My mom worked at a mentally challenged institution for over 30 years, serving people. So for me, I take pride in serving people. And now I'm teaching my kids how to serve people. So for me, I just get a lot of joy out of being able to meet people where they are in whatever human condition they happen to be in. And I just enjoy serving people. So no matter what happens, in the coming weeks, I'm going to still get to serve people doing what I enjoy doing, which is serving people.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I think you guys set the bar so high for, other, professional football players, other athletes in general, and frankly, other human beings. I mean, I'm so honored to be able to have this conversation and show the work that you've done to our audience and the world, because it truly is commendable. And I was going to ask this question, but I know you guys are teammates, but Larry, you often, and you guys give each other a hard time. That's what brothers do. But Larry, you often refer to Beach as your brother from another mother. When did you guys know that you had struck this bond that would go well beyond the locker room?
I knew pretty quickly. There's people that you meet in your life that doesn't take a lot of time for you to be around them, to know that you hope to have them in your life. Obviously, there's people, we all had girlfriends in high school that we loved. Like they didn't love us as much as we loved them, though, right? And so, I was around them for a few times, and I realized like there was something really special, unique about this man. I hope that I can earn his trust and the right to be able to be in his life, for the foreseeable future. And honestly, just the way he moved, the way he treated people. It didn't matter if it was, somebody who was, panhandling on the side of the street. He always has time for them. He never overlooks people. He treats everybody with respect, and he embodies like all the characteristics that I want to be associated with, because I know, if I'm around him, I'm gonna be sharper. Like my sword is gonna be sharper being around him. And so like I knew that within the first, few weeks that this is somebody I want to do life with.
Kelvin?
Iron sharpens iron. And it's rare that you get to spend time with somebody that's sharpening you in every single facet. Larry's not married, but this is the same guy that's always giving just a touch of marital advice that will actually help in certain situations. but it's somebody that
You never need advice in your marriage. You got the perfect harmony. What you talking about, man? You got the perfect harmony. Golly.
Robbie, you've been married. You got 4 kids, man. You know it's never perfect.
I've been married 15 years. I don't do anything right.
Yeah, who you telling? I'm in the same boat. But it's somebody that, is always pushing you. And the thing is, I think, what continues to drive the friendship is that we're pushing each other. And I think it's rare where there is a obsession with competition. You don't play 17 years, you don't play 14 years, and you're not obsessed with competition. But at the same time, we're competing, we're also on a team. And we're wanting to see each other win at all costs. I want to see him be the next billionaire. He will be the next billionaire. I hold him to that standard. I hold him to that aura. And he holds me to that same aura. No matter where he's at, no matter where he's at in the world, he's held to a certain standard, and I'm held to a certain standard. And we hold each other and keep pushing the goalposts to different places based off of what we're experiencing at that particular moment. And I don't think you find many people in life that you're close enough in proximity where you get to see that on a consistent basis. I see how he treats Devin, how he treats Milo, how he treats Apollo. You see those things and you're fascinated by those things, and you want to see him do better, and he wants to see you do better. And for me, that's what continues to drive, what we have and the friendship that we have and the brotherhood that we have. I never had an older brother. That's my older brother. He's just a couple years older than me. Every once in a while he wants to buck up, and little brother has to, show him what's going on. But that's my older brother. So, I respect him. He puts his hands on me from time to time, and little brother shows him what's up. So, that's the family dynamic from time to time. We've even
as
gotten in
the
trouble
little brother. I get it. No.
Yeah. Every once in a while we're on an elevator. And he had my kids crying because I had them pinned up in the corner on the elevator. Had me stepping on my wife's foot in the elevator. So sometimes, things have to happen.
I feel like I need to give Larry a rebuttal on that, but I don't know. Maybe that's where we leave it on that question.
I'll say he's real strong. I'll just say that. I don't want to go into detail, but that was funny. We like to wrestle, and I usually I'm on the losing end of it. But that one particular time, K3. Nell, they were crying in the elevator. They thought we were really being serious. They didn't know what to do. But I know his kids. They're not gonna fight. If anything go down, they're gonna run. They're not gonna fight. They're not gonna stand in there and fight.
Hey, I don't have no runners. They just young. They don't know yet. They don't know yet.
Yeah. A lot of learning coming.
Exactly.
Oh man. So I know we're at the end of our time, but I do have one question, and it kind of ties everything together because we talked about it early on in the podcast. Success requires sacrifices. It requires trade-offs. Now, this is a question I ask all my guests on this podcast. If you could do it all over again, would you make the same decisions? Or if you did something different, what might you do differently?
You want to kick it off, Beach, or you want me?
I wouldn't change not a thing. Every experience, every mountaintop, every valley has put me in the position that I'm in today. I'm where my feet are for a reason. Good decisions, bad decisions, good outcomes, bad outcomes. I'm where I need to be at. So I wouldn't change not one thing.
There's definitely some things I would change. More so on the personal side. Things I wouldn't have said or things that I would do differently. I thought be more attentive in certain situations that I think that I could have been better at. But from professional side, I never had any regrets because I feel like I left everything on the table. Like I gave it everything I had every single day, and I'm okay with the results. But definitely a few things on the personal side I would love a redo. Love a redo. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, and I mean that in every sense of the word. You both are truly our gentlemen and embody those qualities. I would love for my kids to look up to the legacy that you guys have created because the aura that you've created around you truly speaks for itself. I'm honored to spend this time with both of you. I know this is probably the beginning of more conversations and hopefully more rounds of golf to come. But gentlemen, I really appreciate your time, and I wish you all the best, and thank you for being on this podcast.